Last 15 years, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been giving seminars on career, life alignment, which is what
Right.
you mentioned, transition at holistic learning centers around the world. How did you get all of this started?
You know what's really scary? It's actually the last 20 years. As my friend Laraji says, time flies when you're having none. Uh, this is a beautiful thing. How do you do it? You asked the question. How do you get on this career path? Most of us in this culture are extroverted.
Hmm.
So the way it usually happens is you have to find somebody who inspires you.
Hmm.
This is called the mentor. You have to find somebody who's doing something that you might like to do, and you hang out with them. So in my case, I found people who really inspired me. They were both in the New York area, and I went to their classes. I stayed with them.
Hmm.
And it was through their efforts and through working with teachers and mentors that I was able to step into my own power.
Wow.
So really, the traditional way of learning any career is apprenticeship. That's why one of the most important questions I ask someone in a career counseling session is, who are the people in the world or in history who inspire you?
Who inspires you now through all your writings and teachers? Who is it now who is
Right now,
inspiring you?
it keeps changing. For a while, it was Sri Aurobindo, the Indian sage and philosopher. I don't know what it is that inspired me. I think about him. I think the fact that he was being chased by the British. They wanted to put him back in jail.
Okay.
And there was a boat to take him to Pondicherry to get him out of the British territory that they were going to go on. But in order to get onto the boat, you had to pass a medical exam.
Okay.
And something happened to the carriage because they were hiding from the police, and they couldn't get to the boat in time. And everybody else was really flustered and got upset, and what are we going to do? And he never wavered. He just sat there, this affirmation, all things are working together for good. He just stayed with where he was. And then his colleagues found another doctor in town who gave him his medical certificate. So he got on the boat just in time. It turned out that if he had gone on the boat earlier, the medical examiner who was hired by the British would have surely turned him in.
Mm-hmm.
So he had this alignment through surrender.
Wow.
Now, how do you get on your path? It's often crisis.
It's true.
Aurobindo was a revolutionary who got thrown into solitary confinement by the British. And he was in this little dark jail cell. And instead of complaining, getting angry, he started doing pranayama. He started doing meditation exercises.
Okay.
And he started getting visions of Krishna and visions of his life and what he was supposed to do. And that's where it all started for him. So I think Aurobindo's life story for me is an inspiring example of, it's not surrender to fate, it's meeting your fate. There's a big difference.
You've given me a lot to think about.
Okay.
I want to walk hand in hand with my fate, so to speak. And I guess that's sort of what you refer to, meeting it, embracing it,
Yeah.
not surrendering to it.
You know who else I like? Who I think is inspiring?
Who is
Sean
that?
Combs.
Sean, why Sean Combs?
Because he seems to be having fun. I don't know him in person,
Right.
but he has this, a lot like Andy Warhol.
Okay.
He has this kind of ritualistic creativity that keeps reinventing itself. Puff Daddy's running the
Right.
marathon. P. Diddy's helping people in
Right.
the studio.
Right.
But there's a sense of, what I like about Sean Combs is not being self-limited. But this real sense is that my creativity can take me anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he started out, the same way, he had an internship in a radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And and there were a bunch of people ahead of him, and he said, I just kept my mouth shut, and I listened, and I learned everything. And one day, the guy who was ahead of me, he quit. And I called up the boss, and I took him out to lunch. I said, I want you to hire me for that position.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I said, oh, we'll take a chance on you. And so they took him, and, the rest is history.
Wow.
But again, there's this sense of apprenticeship,
Right.
And then the alignment, like when it's your time to walk into the doorway.
I see. And he certainly has reinvented himself
Completely,
in many different ways.
Yeah.
Clothing, actor, singer. Very interesting correlation.
Yeah.
I think people could relate to that.
I'm Maggie Dubree. I'm a hypnotist, and I also work with kids at Maimonides Hospital for an organization called Kids Kicking Cancer. And I'm a writer and a musician. And before I did my current jobs, I was a paramedic for many years. I was basically, booted out by circumstances from my comfortable paramedic job. And I think the job was getting less and less comfortable anyway, because things change. You can't do something forever and ever and have it remain exactly the same and just as much fun. But I wasn't going to leave it. And then when I got sick and when the Trade Center happened, I just didn't enjoy it the way that I had. So at first I didn't know what to do. I thought I got to keep my insurance, I got to make money, what am I going to do? I explored the idea of teaching paramedic stuff. I could do it, you made money doing it, I didn't really like it. I wanted to do something that would make me happy, and I didn't know what it was, but I kind of opened my head to the idea that I was going to find something that I liked just as much as being a paramedic. When the teacher came, it didn't matter if I didn't have the money to do it or didn't know if I would have the time. I just said, yes, I'm going to do it. And then I never heard of anyone except this one hypnotist I went to making her living as a hypnotist. It sounds crazy. It sounds like, you're going to Hogwarts and you're going to be a wizard or something. But I knew I believed in it, and I thought, I'm just going to make my living doing this. However, and it seemed like every step I took, 10 steps came towards me. Like the minute I took a risk, like I took my hypnosis training, I started to get opportunities, and more opportunities opened up, and I'm still doing that. For me, I can't just settle in and say, okay, I'm done, I'm a hypnotist, now I'm happy, I'm doing the work I love, that's it. New things, like I thought I would like to have my downloads on Audible. So I wrote them an email, and they said, okay. So, so that's my next thing. And that's how I did it.